$300 million worth of investment is coming to steel tube making operations in Sault Ste. Marie. As CTV's Courtney Nordstrom explains, Tenaris will be set up for new work and new jobs over the next 2.5 years.
Both the federal and provincial governments will be providing over $70 million for upgrades at the Sault Ste. Tenaris steel plant. With investment from the company itself, a total of $306 million will transform the facility over the next 30 months.
This investment will expand production, extend the range of made in Canada products, and maximize productivity through the installation of new state-of-the-art equipment. When this project is complete, we will have enhanced our production capacity significantly.
Tenaris is the only manufacturer in the country capable of producing the steel pipes needed for Canada's oil and gas industry. And this kind of Ontario-made manufacturing is more important than ever before.
The U.S. believed tariffs would make Canada's steel industry slow down and pull back. Instead, something completely unexpected happened. A huge company chose to grow even bigger in Canada, proving that while the US tried to push the industry away, Canada quietly turned the pressure into a major win. Washington spent 18 months betting that tariff pressure on Canadian steel would force Canadian producers to shrink, retreat, or relocate. In May 2026, one of the world's largest steel pipe manufacturers walked into Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, stood alongside federal and provincial officials and announced a $306 million capital investment, the largest single commitment it has ever made to its Canadian operations. Not a study, not a framework. A concrete, funded, construction-ready expansion of a Canadian steel facility in the middle of the most aggressive American tariff regime in the modern bilateral relationship. The bet Washington made failed to account for what capital actually does when it encounters a strategic opportunity rather than a retreating industry. Tenaris is not a small regional manufacturer hedging its position in a difficult market. It is one of the world's largest producers of steel pipes for the energy industry, a global company that makes precision-engineered tubular goods for oil wells and pipelines in dozens of countries across 5 continents. When Tenaris makes a $306 million commitment to a single facility, it reflects a corporate assessment of long-term commercial opportunity, not a short-term tactical reaction. And the long-term commercial opportunity Tenaris is committing to in Sault Ste. Marie is the one that every analyst tracking Canada's energy sector has been watching build for 2 years. The pipeline construction demand that the Carney-Smith West Coast Pipeline Implementation Agreement is designed to generate. Before the $306 million announcement, Tenaris had already invested more than $350 million Canadian dollars in its Sault Ste. Marie Industrial Centre since 2020. The new commitment brings its total Canadian manufacturing investment to more than $650 million since 2020 alone. A company does not deploy $650 million in a market it believes is contracting. It deploys $650 million in a market it believes is about to experience the kind of sustained demand expansion that justifies generational capital commitment. In this case, that expansion is a 1 million barrel per day West Coast oil pipeline that, if constructed, will require steel pipe at a volume no single Canadian facility can supply from existing capacity. The 2 product categories the Sault Ste. Marie facility defines Canada's energy infrastructure supply chain from wellhead to export terminal. The first is oil country tubular goods, OCTG, the steel casings and tubing that go into every oil and gas well drilled anywhere in the country. When a drill bit enters the ground in northern Alberta's oil sands, the borehole it creates needs to be stabilized, sealed, and connected to surface equipment. OCTG does that work. Without it, there are no wells. Without wells, there is no production. Without production, there is no pipeline. The second product is line pipe, the steel that carries oil, gas, and refined products from wellheads through the gathering systems, trunk lines, and export corridors that connect production to market. The West Coast Pipeline alone, running from Alberta to British Columbia's northern coast, will require steel pipe across its entire length. That is the demand Tenaris is positioning to serve. The $306 million expands the industrial center's capability across both product lines with documented specificity. New equipment will impact every stage of the seamless and electric resistance welded manufacturing processes: hot rolling, stretch reduction, heat treatment, testing capabilities, and finishing operations. An additional threading line for semi-premium and API connections adds capacity for the precision machined screw connections that allow individual pipe joints to be assembled into the continuous strings that run thousands of meters into a wellbore. The product grade expansion covers OCTG for shale drilling applications, thermal applications including the steam-assisted gravity drainage method that dominates Alberta oil sands production, and offshore applications covering Canada's East Coast and future Arctic development programs. Each of those three drilling categories represents a growing and documented segment of Canadian energy activity. Shale production requires high-strength OCTG capable of managing the mechanical stresses of horizontal wellbores extending several kilometers underground in formations that put the pipe under conditions conventional vertical drilling does not generate. Thermal SAGD requires pipe rated for sustained, high-pressure, high-temperature steam injection metallurgical specifications that are more demanding and more expensive to produce than conventional grades. Offshore applications require marine corrosion certification and mechanical load ratings for subsea installations. Tenaris is not expanding generic commodity pipe capacity. It is expanding precisely the specialized grades that Canada's specific drilling and energy mix requires. The commercial delivery mechanism that makes the Sault Ste. Marie expansion commercially effective rather than merely additional capacity is the Rig Direct service network Tenaris operates across Canada's oil and gas producing basins. Rig Direct is Tenaris' proprietary supply chain model in which the company manages OCTG, inventory, threading, inspection, and delivery logistics directly to the drilling rig, eliminating the intermediate warehouse steps that add cost and delay to conventional pipe supply chains. Tenaris operates Rig Direct service facilities in Alberta, connecting Ontario's manufacturing capacity to the Western Canadian drilling market through a company-controlled supply chain. The pipe is manufactured in Sault Ste. Marie, threaded and inspected at regional service facilities, and delivered directly to drill sites in Alberta's producing basins without intermediary distributors. That integration is what converts manufacturing capacity into market position. Martin Castro, president of Tenaris in Canada, captured the strategic framing of the investment directly. In Canada, we know energy connects us. Tenaris steel pipes, manufactured in Ontario and delivered through our Rig Direct service network to oil and gas operators across the country, enable Canadian energy sovereignty. With this more than 300 million CAD investment, on top of more than 350 million CAD invested since 2020, we illustrate Tenaris' steadfast commitment to Canadian manufacturing. The tariff context makes the timing of the announcement more significant than its dollar value alone. The same 50% Section 232 tariff that Washington imposed on Canadian steel exports to the United States, and that has been pushing Canadian steel producers to redirect commercial strategies away from American buyers, is simultaneously creating the conditions in which Canadian steel demand for domestic infrastructure is growing. The West Coast Pipeline, if constructed, is a Canadian domestic infrastructure project whose steel requirements are not subject to American export tariffs in either direction. Steel manufactured in Sault Ste. Marie and installed in a Canadian pipeline that ships oil to Asian markets at Brent-linked prices generates revenue that bypasses the American refinery system entirely. The tariff that was designed to pressure Canadian steel producers is accelerating the investment in domestic Canadian energy infrastructure that reduces Canadian dependence on American market access. The Sault Ste. Marie context includes a second major steel producer whose situation illustrates the other side of the tariff's impact. Algoma Steel, located in the same northern Ontario city as the Tenaris facility, reported a $159.4 million net loss in the first quarter of 2026, with $27.4 million in direct tariff costs absorbed in a single quarter. Algoma has been restructuring its commercial book away from U.S. exposed coil production toward Canadian plate markets and defense steel applications, pivoting the business in real time away from American buyers who are now expensive to serve and toward Canadian buyers whose demand is growing.